Kevin, markets closing in the positive today. Of course, we do have future closeouts on Thursday. We've got a public holiday tomorrow. You know that liquidity has been relatively thin over the last few sessions because of the Soccer World Cup and, of course, a lot of things happening overseas as well. How do you see that playing out on Thursday, the futures closeout?
The open interest at the moment is about 70,000 contracts. When I left the desk, it might be a little lower than that. That means 70,000 contracts are still open and need to be closed by 2 o'clock or so on Thursday. Now, a lot of the arbitrage players are normally naturally net short stock and long the future. What that normally does is have a little bit of an underpinning for the market on the closeout day, although it doesn't always guarantee it. As we go into Thursday, we'll be at the mercy of the international markets and their trade from Wednesday. It's not a large amount of contracts to be closed on Thursday, but it could be fairly solid.
Lower than normal is what you're saying?
It's normally in line. For the last few days, they've been rolling over or closing 40,000 contracts a day, and with 60,000 going into the last day, it's not a large amount.
And of course, you mentioned it really all depends on what's happening on the international markets as well, because really that deciphers where we would be going as well.
Absolutely. The correlation to what's happening with the rest of the investment universe is very high and will determine how we get to the start on that Thursday.
Right. We spoke about whether the rally is sustainable a little earlier, but just looking at some of the interesting moves in today's session, we had Exxaro gaining almost 2%. We know that the resource companies have been gaining ground since the rally that we've been seeing over the last few sessions, but we know there have been the laggards and they have been sold off quite heavily, especially when we saw the volatility coming through. Exxaro, as I said, 1.8% in the green, a company that you would perhaps be looking at because of the coal scenario that is playing out in South Africa? Yeah,
we do like Exxaro very much, and we like the coal sector as a whole. Exxaro is the biggest stock within that sector and our preferred pick. The coal sector is very interesting. It's an energy play, and then it's not only local demand from Eskom, and the contracts are fairly well in place for the next few years, but it's also an international energy play with the likes of India and China coming for our assets as well.
And of course from the renewable sector as well, because they're also heading to that. Coal of Africa, another interesting coal play, a pure coal play in South Africa.
Yes, that's right. It's a company which we followed for the last 2 years or so, as they've been starting to ramp up their operations and starting to ramp up their production. Their specific project that we're looking at is the Vile project, and there was news out of their an operation update from them today. They are just on the cusp of getting things going there. They're just waiting for a final water permit, which they expect to have within 2 weeks.
And of course, Coal of Africa gaining 1.2% for the day. Kevin, what about all the other resource companies? You know, we've been seeing interesting moves from BHP Billiton, a lot of concerns about the tax that could be implemented in Australia, the gold companies coming under pressure and then gaining ground. Would you be heading into any of those companies, or are you just looking at coal right now from a resource perspective?
No, we'd be looking at a few of the other ones as well. I think you have to be quite cautious given the macroeconomic environment at the moment, and certainly Billiton and Anglos we do like as companies, but the valuations are not screaming buys. So what we are doing is doing a little movement in our portfolio allocations for existing clients. I don't know if I'd be rushing in to buy them up right now, though.
What about Sasol? 0.7% in the green. Interesting moves on the oil market as well. We've got the BP oil spill playing out. We've got Sasol saying that it's going to maintain and grow its dividends in line with the earnings that it's expecting going forward. Demand for oil not going anywhere anytime soon. Perhaps it'll be a bit subdued going forward, but at the end of the day, there are quite good prospects for demand for gas and oil.
Yes, I think it depends on your investment time horizon.
Yeah.
It's actually underperformed the resource sector and the market as a whole in the last 12 to 18 months. As soon as that happens, we normally like to start looking at it because investors' expectations aren't normally being met. I think on an historical valuation perspective, it looks quite attractive.